Let's get you more on that story. Bring in research specialist on gender-based violence, Lisa Vetten. Lisa, very good evening to you. Joining us by phone, I understand. So, Timothy Omotoso and his co-accused today walked free in the Eastern Cape, ultimately because the NPA bungled the case, according to the judge. I mean, just looking at the language that she used, he said that even the cross-examination was shallow and lacking the intention to uncover truth.
Yes, I mean, I think this decision is a humiliation for the NPA. It really, it's not only criticizing the conduct of individual prosecutors and suggesting that they behaved possibly in ways that were untoward, but that it's also saying that they just didn't do a good enough job as prosecutors themselves. I mean, that's very humiliating, especially when the judge is saying something like, at a personal level, I don't disbelieve, I don't actually believe the accused. But from a legal point of view, because they put up such a poor job, they haven't made their case beyond reasonable doubt. So it's a humiliation for the NPA, and I think for the complainants, an absolute travesty of justice.
And Lisa, you've covered similar trials and other cases over the years. How common is it for the prosecution to mess up a case as has happened in this case?
Well, that's such an important question, because I think we should not be looking at this case as being an isolated example. If we look at the NPA's performance over the last 10 years, the number of rape trials that they're putting down to prosecute and the number of cases which are resulting in a guilty conviction has declined. I mean, just to give you an example, in 2013-14, they were able to put down some 8,200 cases for trial. In the last financial year, 2023-24, they put down 5,200. That's a loss of almost 3,000 cases. So, and then of course, if we look at the convictions, they were doing their best again in 2013-14, where they had almost 5,500 convictions. In 2023-2024, they managed 3,800. So there's a clear decline in performance. They were obviously much better at their job than they currently are now. And this, I think this case, if it should demand an urgent urgent attention to diagnosing what has gone wrong and to fixing it as a matter of priority. It's owed to rape complainants. You cannot tell them to come forward and report if this is the kind of outcome they're going to get.
And how difficult, Lisa, is it to get a conviction on a rape charge in South Africa when you consider that even the definition of rape is something that the prosecution team was found wanting on, right? You've got the judge saying that it's not that the evidence given by the women who say Omotoso sexually abused them, but ultimately the way in which the state conducted its case, if you will, is where all of it was lost. Why wasn't, for example, the testimony of these women enough to secure a conviction?
Well, you would need to corroborate it. So that's why you would need additional evidence like DNA, eyewitnesses, or whatever that would be. I mean, one would want to have a look at the actual judgment in full to understand exactly what went on. But I think there's some very serious problems here. I mean, I think one of the things that we need to take into account is, and it seems to be one of the reasons why the NPA might be struggling, is that the number of prosecutors, thanks to budget cuts, so the discussion you were having beforehand is very important, the number of prosecutors they have available to them is also declining. So, if you have a very high caseload, I think what's going to happen is that you're going to start picking and choosing your cases. And you're going to you either are not going to put as much time into your case as you need to because you have too many cases to handle, or you're going to start picking and choosing the cases that you think are the most winnable. And those that are a little bit more difficult or a little bit more challenging, you're going to leave to one side. So I think, yeah.
And Omotoso now, is likely to be deported, as we understand some of the reporting this evening. The NPA issued a statement in the afternoon saying it intends to study the judgment and then look at possible routes forward. So it's not ruling out pursuing this matter again. But given what I was saying earlier about him possibly leaving the country and how long the wheels of justice turn in this country, what are the prospects that ultimately we may see a retrial of some fashion?
I think it's incredibly unlikely based on what the judge said, but obviously if they study the judgment and find something different, based on what the judge said, it does not sound like they would find such grounds. I mean, this case has been difficult from the outset. You have Omotoso's defense lawyer pursuing what sometimes looks like a kind of Stalingrad strategy. He delayed, he opposed, he went to the Supreme Court, he went to the Constitutional Court, every possible excuse he could find to delay the case he took. And I mean, one of the consequences of that was that some of the witnesses pulled out of the NPA's case. They said, we've had enough, we cannot continue. And I mean, they too could have played an important role in securing a conviction. Because I think
sorry, Lisa, sorry for interrupting you, but when you look at the crime stats released by the police in just the last 3 months of last year, 2024, 11,800 cases of rape were reported to police. We know that even that is not necessarily a reliable figure because many other people don't report being victims of sexual violence, right? But when you look at these big cases being messed up in such a way by the people who are supposed to deliver justice, what does that do for a woman, a child, who may have been raped on this very day and is still deciding if they want to pursue a criminal process?
Well, I mean, just watching social media and responses on it today, you can see that people are furious and devastated and basically quite contemptuous, I think, of the NPA. And that's really not good, because it does suggest that people are going to think about this. It was very high profile and, debate why should they even bother. And, that really undermines the entire legitimacy of the criminal justice system. If people don't want to report, and it's understandable why they wouldn't, it then means, the ability to incapacitate somebody who might be a serial rapist, you lose that because victims have thought, I'm not going to waste my time here. So, I mean, it may lead those who are serial rapists to be able to continue their behavior for a much longer period of time. And none of this is desirable. Rape, as it is, has the lowest conviction rate anyway of all crimes in South Africa. The NPA set themselves a target of 70%, which is the lowest of all crimes. So you can already see that it's difficult. And I think if people are going to become reluctant to come forward, and they're going to see what's happening, it's going to drop even lower. And many of the rapes that are not reported, we may be seeing rape possibly increasing, but we won't know that because people aren't coming forward and reporting.
Lisa Vetten, research specialist on gender-based violence in South Africa. Good to talk to you about a very devastating story tonight for at least the women who are hoping to see some sort of justice in the Timothy Omotoso trial. As things stand, he walks away a free man with his co-accused, the NPA saying it is studying that judgment.